The Old Testament reading is from 1 Samuel chapter 1, beginning with the first verse. There was a certain man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice the Lord of hosts at Shiloh. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah and his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. Although he loved Hannah, he would give Hannah only 1 portion, because the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival used to provoke her sorely, to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" After they had eaten and drunk in Shiloh, Hannah rose. Now Eli, the priest, was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, "O Lord of hosts, if you will look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me and give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head." As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart. Only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, "How long will you be drunken? Put away your wine from you." But Hannah answered, "No, my Lord, I am a woman sorely troubled. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your maidservant as a base woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation." Then Eli answered, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition, which you have made to him." Then the woman went her way and ate, and her countenance was no longer sad. They rose early in the morning and worshiped before the Lord. And then they went back to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. And in due time Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel. She said to her husband, "As soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him, and that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and abide there forever." When she had weaned him, and she took him up with her, and they brought the child to Eli. And she said, "O my Lord, I am the woman who was standing here in your presence, praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition, which I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
The novelist Wendell Berry has created many wonderful characters. My favorite may be a woman named Hannah Coulter. She is poor. She lives on a farm in Kentucky. She's a wife. She's a mother. And her hard living on the land has borne much wisdom in her. One day she said this: "The chance you have in life is the life you've got. You can make complaints about what people, including you, make of their lives after they've got them, but you mustn't wish for another life. You mustn't want to be someone else. What you must do is this: rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks." And then she adds, "I'm not all the way capable of so much, but these are the right instructions." Another woman named Hannah reported in 1 Samuel out of the Bronze Age, similarly hard, living off the land, farm, poor. She's a wife, but she is not yet a mother. That's her dream, is that she will be a mother. She prays. It's a memorable story, right? She prays so intently. The one thing that she's wanted in life is to become a mother, and that's been denied her. And she prays so intently that Eli the priest sees her praying, and he thinks that she's drunk. You know, how do you look when you're drunk? Don't answer that right now. She's just praying so intently. These aren't, nice, crisp bedtime prayers. She's really pouring out her soul. Hannah, if you will, shows us the Bible's purest example of what Hannah Coulter said, that in everything give thanks. She shows us how we give thanks. You see, Hannah, she prays for the one thing. It's the thing that she wants. It's the pearl of great price. And finally, she has the son. It's her future. It's her security. It's her love. It's her company. And what we'd expect her to do when she finally gets this most precious of all things is to cling closely and hang on to that child. But instead what she does is she gives the child to God. She takes what is most precious to her and she gives the child to God. It's remarkable. This is how to give thanks. This time of year, we send you mail about our financial campaign, and you think, James trying to pick my pocket to raise money for the church budget. What we are trying to raise the church budget, but what I'm really trying to do is I'm your pastor, and we're a church family, and I love you. And part of what I want you to come to know is the joy of what it is to give like Hannah. In ancient Israel, if you were a shepherd, you gave your stud sheep to God. You didn't take like the little runt that you didn't need. You took the stud, the most valuable of the sheep. If you were a farmer, you took the first grains that came in. That's what you offered to God. Not after I'm full and I have a little bit left, that's what I'll give to God. Hannah takes what is most precious. It's costly to her. And yet it's only when we give something that's costly, it's only when we give something that's precious that we really know the joy in the giving. So Thanksgiving is upon us. And Thanksgiving is a curious holiday. I didn't think about it much until I was in seminary, and I read this thing that Reinhold Niebuhr wrote back in 1926. He went to a community Thanksgiving service in Detroit. And he was kind of puzzled by all that he saw. He said, it doesn't sound much like Thanksgiving. He said, it sounds more like self-congratulation. And if there's any Thanksgiving going on, it's that people are saying, thank you, Lord, that I'm not like other people. Often at Thanksgiving, it's like, what I've got. Thanksgiving customs, but it's always puzzled me. This Thursday, I know you're wondering what the Howells will do. We'll get in the car, we'll go to Winston-Salem. I used to love to have everybody at my house until my daughter Sarah married a guy, Colin, who for years worked as a chef. And we've learned it's better to go to their house. It just goes well. I'll do dishes later. The meal's fabulous. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to eat around 1. And by 3:30, I'm going to be like, oh, we just eat. What is that? Like gorge yourself, and that's how you show thanks to God. This makes absolutely no sense. It reminds us it's not your birthday. And so often at Christmas, it's like, oh, we got the presents. It's like, it's not your birthday, it's Jesus' birthday, right? Thanksgiving is not about, oh, all that I have. It's about giving thanks to God. How do we give thanks to God? What is that? How not to give thanks is illustrated by Hannah's rival, the other wife of Elkanah, Peninnah. Peninnah has children and Hannah does not. It says that Peninnah taunted Hannah. I always assumed for years she used words in her taunting, right? Like she would say to Hannah something like, "Hey, look at me." Or maybe she said, "Nyet, nyet, nyet." I think it's like a Hebrew thing, "Nyet, nyet, nyet." Taunting, but actually the Bible doesn't record any words. And it got me to wondering if maybe she taunted silently. And that made me wonder if there are ways that we taunt others silently, maybe unintentionally. Maybe you got yours, and so what you do is silently, you wouldn't taunt, you wouldn't hurt another person's feelings, but you're like, I got mine. And there's always somebody looking when you say, I got mine, that they didn't get theirs. And it's a taunting, we don't mean it as a taunting, I got mine. Maybe the way to give thanks isn't to go, I got mine, but it's to think about those who didn't get theirs, and how do we bridge that gap? How do we change that for others? What do we give thanks for? What does it mean? As a church, we've been given the gift of this great building. How do we make this for God, right? It's not for us and our pleasure, but how do we make this building for God? We have amazing people in our church. It made me so happy to see all these children singing. We're doing what most churches aren't doing. We have more and more children every year, more and more baptisms every year, more and more. We're growing at the young end. How do we make all of that for God? How do you take your time? Boy, that's something I'm greedy about. I'm not greedy about money, but I'm greedy with time. How do you take the time that you have, and it's for God? Like something costly, and then discover the joy. Whatever your talent, maybe you're good in the kitchen, maybe you're good with numbers. How do you make that for God? How do you do something costly, but then joyful for God? What do we give thanks for anyway? Many of you have been patient in recent weeks. I've been a little sentimental and a little maudlin about our family. My mother-in-law died on November 11th, a year ago, so I wasn't here last Sunday. We all sat together in church up in Winston-Salem with Lisa's dad and siblings and cousins and aunts. It was good to be together. And when you lose someone you love, it brings into focus what Thanksgiving is about. And what you learn is what you're grateful for is not the stuff. We're purging her mom's stuff. We wish she had less stuff. What we're grateful for isn't the stuff, it's the life, it's the love. Just being together, simple stuff like that. And I thought about this recently. This was just a real awakening for me. A week ago, Wednesday, I went to Temple, Israel. And they have a service there every year. It's called Kristallnacht. And it's on the anniversary of when the Nazis began to slaughter the Jews. And they have a service and in this service, what they do is they bring in Holocaust survivors. There are a number of them in Charlotte. Most of them are in walkers or wheelchairs. And they bring them into the room while a violinist plays this theme from Schindler's List, and they read the names. And it's just so moving. Names of people that I've gotten to know: Henry Hirschman and Sully Chinkin, and Irving Beanstalk, and they come in with their families. It's so moving, and it reminded me that just the week before, we had All Saints Day here, where we read the names not of the survivors, but of those who have died. And I thought about the names of the survivors and the names of those who have died, and how those go together. You see, as it turns out, when you know death, you know how precious it is to survive. When you know what it is to lose someone, you know how utterly precious it is that we're still here. There's so much hate in our world. You know the hate in the world, and that's what reminds you that love really matters. Like, we've got to be about love. Life is so fragile. My mother-in-law wrote all these notes in the margins of her devotional book, and the most amazing thing she wrote maybe was this: love is this excruciatingly difficult, exquisite thing that looks directly into the heart and soul of those you profess to love, and rises up in the midst of the most painful times with the power of a love that washes over and destroys all past hurts and fears. Love cleanses and purifies the soul and spirit, leaving nothing in its wake but the healing power of love itself. In loss, we learn the beauty of life. God arranged it that way. God could have made it so that you lose someone and it's just devastating and there's never any life or joy in it, but God made it where there's some beauty in that. We have memory, we have gratitude. God doesn't afflict us, but God is with us in the loss, transforming it. We come to the Lord's table this day, and what Jesus did at the Last Supper is he took what was most precious to him. It was his own body, and he gave it to us. So great is his love. We're called to be grateful, to give thanks for life, love. We're still here. God's still good. God is with us. Thanks giving.
We continue our worship through our prayers.